The village of Saiko had nestled in the foothills of Mount Fuji for centuries. It was a place of serene beauty. Cherry blossoms painted the landscape each spring. Yet a shadow lingered. Just beyond the village edge lay Aokigahara, the sea of trees. This dense forest held a dark reputation. Locals whispered of lost souls and malevolent entities. At the edge of Saiko stood a weathered house. It had stood empty for decades. Locals knew its story. They avoided its presence. The house had once belonged to a wealthy merchant. He had been driven to madness. He took the lives of his entire family. Then he took his own. The house remained a silent monument to tragedy. Its windows were like vacant eyes. They seemed to watch the village. Over time, nature began to reclaim the dwelling. Vines crawled like skeletal fingers across its walls. The stories of the house faded into legend. Yet the villagers knew some places hold on to darkness. This house, with its connection to Aokigahara's heart, was one such place. The stage was set. A new chapter of tragedy was about to unfold. The Nakamura family arrived in Saiko seeking a fresh start. They had faced hardship in Tokyo. The city had drained their resources and their spirits. The old house, despite its state, offered a chance. It was a chance for a new beginning. They were a small family, a father, a mother, and two sons. Kenji, the father, was a carpenter. His hands were calloused. They were strong. He saw potential in the house. He envisioned restoring it to its former glory. His wife, Hana, was a woman of quiet strength. She saw the opportunity for her sons to thrive in the countryside. Their sons, Hiro and Takeshi, were like night and day. Hiro, the elder, was quiet and thoughtful. He had a gentle soul that drew people to him. Takeshi, the younger, was a whirlwind of energy. He embraced the adventure of their new home.
Don't worry, the house is old, that's all.
It's just the wind, Hiro.
The family was unaware. They did not know the darkness that awaited them. Their arrival had disturbed something old and evil. It stirred in the depths of the house. It watched them. It waited for the opportune moment to strike. Their happiness was a fleeting illusion. Hiro began to notice things. He felt a presence in the house. It was subtle at first, a whisper on the wind, a fleeting shadow in the corner of his eye. He heard voices when no one was around. They were faint and disembodied. They seemed to call his name.
Mom, Dad, I keep hearing whispers.
It's just the wind, Hiro.
Don't worry, the house is old, that's all.
But Hiro knew better. He felt a growing sense of dread. The whispers grew louder. He started seeing things more clearly. A figure at the end of the hall, a face peering at him from the darkness. He was drawn to the attic. An unseen force compelled him. His brother Takeshi noticed Hiro's change. He saw the fear in his brother's eyes. He tried to help. He tried to distract him, but the darkness had already taken hold. Hiro was trapped. He was caught in a web of fear and despair. He was powerless to escape. The night of the tragedy, the moon hid behind a veil of clouds. The only sound was the wind rustling through the trees. Inside the house, evil had taken root. It manifested with a vengeance. Screams tore through the night, only to be swallowed by the silence that followed. Kenji and Hana were the first to fall. The entity, fueled by decades of resentment and pain, was merciless.
Takeshi, awakened by the commotion, found his parents lying lifeless on the tatami floor. He was frozen in terror. He saw Hiro standing in the doorway. His eyes were blank. His face was emotionless. In his hand, he held a blood-stained kitchen knife.
Takeshi knew in that moment that his brother was gone. The boy he knew had been consumed by the darkness.
Takeshi fled. He ran into the night, the screams of his brother echoing in his ears. He didn't look back. He didn't dare to. He didn't know how he survived that night. He didn't know where he went. All he knew was that he was alone. He was the only one who knew the truth about what happened to the Nakamura family.
Years passed. The house stood silent once more. The villagers whispered. They kept their distance. The tragedy had cemented the house's sinister reputation. The name Nakamura was forgotten, but the darkness remained. It was waiting for its next victims.
Enter Tokyo, a young woman with eyes as dark as the sea and hair like a raven's wing. She was no ordinary woman. She was a descendant of a long line of warriors. They were tasked with protecting Japan from the shadows. She bore a mark. It was a birthmark. It was a crimson sun on her palm. It was a symbol of her lineage. It was a beacon to the darkness.
Tokyo had a gift, or perhaps a curse. She could see and communicate with spirits. She could sense the presence of evil. She was drawn to places like the old house in Saiko. She was drawn to the residual energy of suffering and death.
She had heard whispers of the house in Saiko, whispers of a powerful entity trapped within its walls. She knew she had to intervene. She had to confront the darkness. She was the last of her line.